Today I'm going to show you how to use the shape tools in Photoshop. So the first thing that I did was I went to File New and I just made a new document that's 25 by 25 inches just because I wanted some space to work in. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my left hand toolbar, and remember I always stack mine side by side so it's easier to find things. I'm going to come down here to the shape tool. And if you click and hold on it, there's a whole bunch of different shapes. So I'm going to start with the rectangle tool, and I've already made my color down here blue, and I'm just going to click and drag, and if I hold down shift I can make a perfect square. If I don't hold down shift I can make any size rectangle I want. Now after I make this, notice on my layers panel this little shape right here. I want to get rid of that. So I'm going to go to my layer on the top toolbar, and I'm going to say rasterize shape. Now that little thing has disappeared. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to bevel and emboss my rectangle. So on the bottom of your layers panel you'll see this little FX, and you can pick bevel and emboss. When this box appears you'll notice it already started to bevel it. I have different options here, so I can change the depth, how extreme that bevel is. I can change the size of it, I can soften it, or I can make it super hard edges. I have a lot of options I can play around with. And then when I like what it looks like, I just say, okay. So that's my first shape. We're also going to make a ellipse, so a circle. So I'm going to come back to my shapes, I'm going to click and hold, I'm going to get the ellipse tool. Now I want to make a perfect circle, so I'm going to put my finger on the shift key, I'm going to click and drag, and it's going to let me make a perfect circle. And then I'm just going to let go when I'm happy with the circle. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color of my circle because I want two different colors. So I just went to the top up here where it says fill, and I just picked a different color. You can pick any color you want to. You could also hit the little rainbow there and go and get a different color as well. Now, like before, I have a little box over here in my layers panel and I want to get rid of it. So I'm going to go back to layer, rasterize, shape, and that little box disappeared. Again, I want to bevel and emboss this like I did my rectangle, but I can do it much quicker this time because if I look over here at my layers, effects, bevel, and emboss is already living underneath my rectangle. So I'm going to right click on that, I'm going to copy that layer style, I'm going to click on my ellipse layer, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to paste that layer style. See how I pasted it? Now it's not quite as round as I want. So I'm going to double click on that paste, get my box back, and now I can change the depth, change the size, change how it softens, so I can make it look a little bit more round than it did before. And now I'm just going to say, okay. So now I have two shapes. What I want to do is I want to put a hole in this like a donut, but these are going to keep it from doing what I want to do. So I want to flatten this ellipse layer. So it looks a little different this year, but down here at the bottom of my layers panel, the add a new or create a new layer icon is just this square with the plus sign in it. So if I click on that, now I have a new blank layer above my ellipse. I'm going to hold down shift on my keyboard, I'm going to click on ellipse, let go of shift, they're both highlighted. I'm going to go Control E like elephant, and I'm going to merge those two layers together. So now it no longer says effects, bevel, and emboss here. It's just a solid layer. Now to put a hole in it, I'm going to come up here to my marquee tool in the top right corner, and I'm going to click and hold and get the elliptical marquee. What I'm going to do is put my cursor kind of near the center, hold down shift so I get a perfect circle, and I'm going to click and drag and let go. Now, my circle is not in the center, so I'm going to use the arrow keys on my keyboard, and I'm going to push it where I want it. So I did not change any tools. I stayed on the ellipse tool. I'm just using my arrow keys. If I had moved to my move tool while doing this, it would have cut a hole in it that I didn't want. So now that I have my ellipse where I want it, I'm going to hit the delete key on the keyboard, and I just put a hole in it. To get rid of the dancing ants, I'm going to go Control D. Now they're gone. Now, I want to go back to beveling and embossing this. So I'm going to come down here to the FX key. I'm going to hit bevel and emboss again. And now I can bevel it even more. And because I beveled and embossed it the first time, it gives me a lot more colors and values to work with, which is really nice. You get a really nice circle going on. Okay, so now that I've got my donut shape, I'm going to say okay. I'm going to come back down to my rectangle, take my move tool, and what I want to do is I want to make it look like this rectangle is going through the donut. So I'm going to Control T to transform. I'm going to hold down Shift so I can transform it out of proportion. So I'm holding down Shift. I'm going to rotate it. Just come to the corner so you can rotate it. And I'm going to put it right through the center of that donut shape. And I'm going to hit Enter to apply it. Now, I want to make it look like it's coming over the donut shape right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my ellipse shape. So I'm on the ellipse layer. I'm going to come over here to my left-hand toolbar, click and hold on my lasso tool, get the polygonal lasso tool, and I am going to trace this edge right here. So all I did was I traced right where my rectangle is over the top of that ellipse. And notice I'm on the ellipse layer. So, oops, I skipped a step. Dang it, so close. So what I should have done first is add a new layer, because I need to get rid of this effects, bevel and emboss. I should have added a new layer before I did the polygonal lasso. And I'm going to Shift, I'm going to Control E, mush those together. Okay, our ellipse, our shape is still here. So now I'm going to hit the Delete key and then Control D to deselect. And now it looks like my rectangle is running straight through my donut, my circle shape, which is awesome. But wait, there's more. So I'm going to go back to my rectangle layer, and I'm going to go back to my FX tool, and I'm going to click on Pattern Overlay. Check this out. Now it looks like there's leaves on top of it. So when you're on Pattern Overlay, you can come over here to Pattern. There are 3 different folders, Trees, Grass, and Water. I'm a big fan of water. And as you click on them, they do different effects to your shape. Now, it's hiding my color. I still want to see my color. So up here where it says blending mode, I can change the blending mode so that you can see through it. And you can get some pretty sweet effects. So I like color dodge because it brings that pink out. So I'm going to say, okay. So this is the first thing that we did with this shape tool. I have 15 minutes left on my free video software, so I'm going to try to show you a couple of other things. So I'm just going to go ahead and Shift, Control E to merge these guys so that I can push them out of the way, put them in the corner down here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my ellipse tool. I'm going to pick a different color. I'm going to go for a light pink here. I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to make a perfect little circle. Now, again, it put this little box here that I want to get rid of. So I'm going to go Layer, Rasterize Shape, got rid of the box. Now, I'm going to come down to FX, and I'm going to drop a shadow. So when you drop a shadow, you can tell it how far you want this shadow to go. You can change the spread of it. You can change the size of it. So it kind of dictates the time of day, you know, how far your shadow is cast. And then you can also change the angle, what side it's coming from. But I'm going to leave mine straight up and down so that my shadow's right here. You can also change the color of your shadow. So maybe I want to make it a dark blue as opposed to black. See how it's kind of blue right there? You can get as detailed as you want to. So I'm going to say okay. Grab my move tool here. Now I want to copy this layer. So to copy the layer, I'm going to go Control J. Control J. And then I'm going to move that guy there. I'm going to go Control J again. And this time, I'm also going to go Control T to transform. And I'm going to make my circle bigger. So I'm just going to put him over there. Maybe he got a little too big. There we go. Hit Enter to apply. Now, to really see how cool this effect is, I'm going to drop down to my background layer. I'm going to go get my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm just going to make a little box right here that holds my circles. And I'm going to go get my paint bucket. Your paint bucket and your gradient tool, remember, they live together over here. And I'm going to paint my rectangle in the same color as these circles. Now do you see how it looks like they're almost like cut paper hiding through there? It's a pretty neat effect. Now, the last thing I want to show you is the custom shape tool. So if you go back to your shape tool, click and hold on your ellipse, this fuzzy little star down here is your custom shape tool. Click on that. On the top toolbar, shapes will appear. From here, you can load all kinds of shapes. I'm going to go for a crescent moon. I'm going to pick a different color here. And then you just click and drag, and it's going to draw your shape for you. Now once again, you get that weird little square you want to get rid of, so I'm going to layer, rasterize, shape. And then I can do all kinds of stuff. I'd like you to go to the FX tool and see what some other options are. Like gradient overlay is pretty cool. You can pick different colors of gradients that you want to apply. See how now it's going dark to light? You can change the opacity of it, how much appears, the angle of it, all kinds of fun things. I can also go back to Bevel and Emboss, and I can change what that looks like. That makes it pretty cool. I could drop a shadow behind it. Maybe I want that shadow to go down really far, like it's, you know, late nighttime. All kinds of options. You can play with all kinds of things. Like stroke, we'll put an outline on things. So maybe I want to have like a cool yellow outline on my little crescent moon there. Maybe I want to make it transparent. All kinds of options. So definitely keep making shapes and playing with all of these. So that's the basics of what we're doing. I'm going to put an assignment in Schoology, and you're going to make an image using all of the shapes and FX properties and things that you remember. You can also, real quick before I go, I'm just going to merge some things here. You can always go in and dodge and burn things that you've made. Like if I wanted to go in and make that brighter. Oh, my exposure is really faint. If I wanted to go in and make this look 3D, even though I hadn't beveled and embossed it, I could go in with my dodge and burn tool and I could make this look more 3D. You just have to remember all those properties you learned in intro or a previous drawing class. But that's about it, my friends. That's the basics of what we're doing. So if you have any questions, message me on Schoology, let me know. But that's the basics of using your shape tool. Enjoy!